Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to tell you one of the most mysterious and chilling stories in America. A story from the state of Ohio, home to an old university, often called one of the most haunted schools in the world. And at the center of all the rumors lies Room 428. A room locked forever. No one is allowed to stay there, and no one dares to get too close. So then, what really happened inside that room? Come with me, and let's step inside. Part 1: The Beginning at Wilson Hall. My friends, if you ever find yourself in the state of Ohio, passing through the quiet little town of Athens, you'll see what looks like a peaceful scene. Tree-lined streets, old red brick buildings that have stood for more than a century, and the slow, thoughtful rhythm of a university town. But don't let that calm appearance fool you. Because beneath the surface, Athens has long been known as one of the most haunted places in the United States. This is where Ohio University stands, an old and respected institution with tens of thousands of students. People praise it for its rich history, its creative learning environment, but alongside that, the university is famous for something very different: unexplained, chilling stories. And if you ask any student here, is there something strange about this school? 9 out of 10 will immediately mention Wilson Hall, a dormitory that looks ordinary from the outside, but hides countless terrifying rumors. And at the center of it all is Room 428. Wilson Hall was built in the 1960s, during the student population boom in Athens. Architecturally, it's nothing special: plain brick walls, long narrow hallways, rows of identical wooden doors. In the daytime, Wilson Hall seems just like any other dorm, buzzing with conversations, music leaking from one room to another, and the smell of food drifting from the shared kitchen. But what makes Wilson Hall different only comes alive after dark. Many students say that after midnight, the fourth floor, the floor of Room 428, takes on a completely different atmosphere. Footsteps echo strangely in the empty corridor. Fluorescent lights flicker as though they're about to die. And sometimes you might hear a faint whistle of wind through the windows, even on nights when the air outside is perfectly still. One student once said, "During the day, Wilson Hall feels like any normal dorm. But at night, I always felt like I was being watched. As if someone was standing at the end of the hallway, silently staring at me." Athens itself already carries a history tied to death. The town is surrounded by old cemeteries, some dating back to the 1800s. And if you look at a map from above, you'll see something unsettling. Those cemeteries align in the shape of a pentagram, and right at the center of that star stands Wilson Hall. Perhaps that's why people believe Wilson Hall is a crossroads between the living world and the afterlife. Lost souls, whispers from the past, all seem to gather here. In its early years, Wilson Hall was nothing more than a dormitory filled with students studying, laughing, and living. But over time, the rumors began. At first, they were just small things. A student swore he heard knocking on his door at 3 a.m., but when he opened it, no one was there. A girl said strange hand-like smudges appeared on her mirror, even though she lived alone. Some heard footsteps running down the hallway, even though the entire floor was dark and silent. Those events could have been dismissed if they were rare, but when they kept happening again and again, always centered around the fourth floor, fear started spreading. Now I want you to imagine this. It's late at night. You're coming back from a study group. The hallway on the fourth floor is dim, lit only by a few flickering yellow bulbs. As you walk past Room 428, you suddenly feel the air grow colder. Your footsteps echo clearly, but then you hear another set of steps keeping pace with yours. You stop. The other steps stop too. You keep walking. The steps return right beside you. Your eyes drift to the wooden door of Room 428. Just an ordinary door, nothing unusual. But somehow, your heart races, your palms grow cold, and every instinct inside you whispers, something here is not right. And friends, that is only the surface of the story. What truly turned Room 428 into a legendary nightmare was the mysterious death of a female student who once lived there in the 1970s. But that is something I'll reveal in the next part. For now, just remember this: Wilson Hall may look as ordinary as any other building, but once night falls, the fourth floor, home of Room 428, takes on a darkness of its own. A darkness heavy, unsettling, and one that makes many believe that place belongs not to the living, but to something else entirely. Part 2, the story of the mysterious student. Do you remember what I said earlier, that Wilson Hall only truly became a horror legend after one fateful event? That event was tied to a young woman who once lived in room 428 back in the 1970s. And this is the darkest chapter in Wilson Hall's history. That student, even to this day, the university has never made her identity public. All that remains are fragments of memory from her friends, and whispers that have been passed down from generation to generation. They say she was a quiet, withdrawn girl, but very intelligent. She didn't party, she didn't socialize much. Instead, she spent most of her time alone in her room, reading and researching strange topics. Not math, not literature, but books about magic, spells, and mystical rituals from both the East and the West. Friends recalled that in her room, there were always thick journals filled with strange symbols. Sometimes they even saw her drawing large chalk circles right in the middle of the floor. Inside the circle, she would place candles, crystals, and objects no one could quite recognize. One time, a classmate accidentally walked in and found her sitting cross-legged inside one of those circles, eyes closed, whispering strange incantations. When questioned, she simply smiled and said, "It's just an ancient ritual to help me focus." But the truth might have been far more terrifying. Some believed that she was trying to communicate with the other side. She was obsessed with the idea that the souls of the dead never really disappear, that they linger, waiting for someone to summon them. And then came the fateful night. According to those who lived in the dorm at the time, the hallway on the 4th floor was filled with a dim glow seeping from room 428. Some students claimed they heard strange murmurs inside, like chanting or broken whispers, heavy, uneven, almost like someone struggling to breathe. One curious student pressed their ear to the door and felt a cold draft seeping out from the cracks, even though the hallway itself was unbearably hot. The next morning, the room was eerily silent. When the dorm manager knocked, no one answered. They broke the lock and entered, and what they saw left them frozen. The young woman lay lifeless on the floor. Around her, a chalk circle, now smudged and broken. Half-burned candles scattered across the floor. Black scorch marks smeared the walls, as if something had violently burst inside that tiny room. When the police and university officials arrived, they gave no clear explanation. The official statement contained only one chilling line: suicide under unclear circumstances. But the students never believed it was an ordinary suicide. They whispered among themselves that she had performed a ritual, a summoning, and it had gone terribly wrong. From that day forward, the atmosphere in Wilson Hall changed forever. No one dared go near room 428. Those who walked past it swore they felt eyes watching them from within. Some stories were even more terrifying. One student swore they saw a faint white figure standing by the window of room 428, even though the room was locked and empty. Another claimed they heard whispers in the night, as if someone was softly calling their name, only for the sound to vanish the moment the lights were turned on. But perhaps the most chilling detail was a shocking coincidence. Years later, researchers discovered that Wilson Hall stands at the exact center of a pentagram formed by the surrounding cemeteries of Athens. Many believe that the girl chose room 428 not by chance, but because she realized it was a crossing point between two worlds. And on that final night, perhaps she really did open a door, one that she could never close again. From then on, her death became the very origin of all the legends surrounding Wilson Hall. An origin cloaked in mystery, steeped in terror, and one that unleashed countless paranormal events for decades to come. And in the next part, I will tell you about the horrifying experiences students faced when they tried to live in room 428 after her death. And trust me, this was only the beginning of the nightmare.